Welcome to the Bothell City Council regular meeting of December 4th, 2018. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All council members are here except Councilmember Agnew, who is absent and excused. Meeting agenda approval. I have one addition to tonight's meeting agenda. I hope the council is okay with. I want to add to the new business, and the subject is request to DNR for a 2-year extension of interest in the Shelton View Forest. Is everybody okay with adding that to tonight's agenda? Okay. Let's see. Any other changes? Review of projected agenda. Is there any changes there? No. Review of public engagement opportunities. So let's see, apply now for one of our boards and commissions. Visit our website at bothellwa.gov for more information. The deadline to apply is December 21st. Santa Food and Toy Drive. Bothell firefighters will be driving a fire truck through local neighborhoods in December to collect non-perishable food items and new unwrapped toys. All donations to benefit HopeLink. Visit our website for more information. And the last one is visit City Hall now through January 25th to view the photographer Eric D'Amato's exhibit titled Forgotten Spaces. There's some right there. Okay, with that, we're on to city manager and council committee reports. City manager, you have any? No? Council reports? Deputy Mayor?
I've got kind of a lengthy one. Councilmember McNeil and I attended the 522 and 405 BRT meeting with Sound Transit and other elected officials, and we had some issues, and so the city manager suggested I read what my comments were. The interim solution does not accommodate the express toll lanes, but will be complete around the same time that BRT and the express toll lanes come online. There is no proposed funding for the final solution. When and how, I asked ST4. We all know how often interim plans become permanent, not to mention the best case scenario that you redo work almost immediately to make the final solution because taxpayers love paying to redo work. When the ETLs come online, Bothell will lose 2 stops and a park and ride at Brickyard that now has 300 spots. Where are those people going to go? With this interim solution, 405 BRT will not connect with our downtown because it increases travel time by 10 minutes, but the express toll lanes will save travel time by 24 minutes, not to mention the time saved with less stops. The proposed 522-405 BRT connection will not occur at or near a park and ride, nor anywhere near our multimodal downtown. It will be on 195th. Our multimodal downtown that we have invested over $100 million in local, state, and federal, and over $800 million in private investment is going to be bypassed. So our downtown commuters to get to the 405 will have only one option: ride the 522 bus for 5 minutes and then transfer on 195th stop with no amenities to make that connection. Instead, downtown commuters could walk to or park at a park and ride transit center on Kaesner, which is where our existing park and ride is, and the 522 could hang a right on 104th down to Beardsley to connect at that Kaesner park and ride, where the 405 could turn around and pick up transfers and park and ride commuters. And while we lose service, we gain a bus barn in our regional growth center. And now, rather than just BRT buses, we also get rapid ride buses, of which there are no lines in Bothell. And we've been told there is no capacity for our request for affordable housing on that site. We're being completely used in the deal. Our Bothell residents are going to rightfully lose their minds, and the city has gotten nothing in exchange for our troubles. We've taken a deep breath on this bus barn and tried to be reasonable, and now we see what our reasonableness has gotten us: absolutely nothing. We've been told BRT won't work without express toll lanes, but this plan ensures that BRT won't work in Bothell. Ironic, considering all of the work we've done to get funding for the express toll lanes from 522 to I-5. Please reconsider and do the analysis to cost out our preferred long-term solution, which includes our promised park and ride at Kaesner to serve as a transit center and a real connection between 405 BRT and 522 BRT. in addition, Councilmember McNeil made some pointed comments. So I just wanted the community to know, because your comments count, and if you care about transit in Bothell, please reach out to Sound Transit and let them know what you think, because we are trying to fight for you, but it always helps when you fight for you too. So thank you.
Any other committee reports? Yes. Councilman Olson?
Yeah, so I attended the Snohomish County Tomorrow Steering Committee, and it's definitely legislative season. We had multiple reports from different groups speaking about the state legislature and their agenda, and we were pretty much just getting the reports. And I'll tie this into another meeting that I went to, the Snohomish County Cities, where we actually got together the Snohomish County cities and kind of did brainstorming on, well, is more of, we've already developed them for our city, so is gathering of ideas. We broke into 3 different tables and put them up on boards for each table, and kind of called out the duplicates, and then everyone got together and voted on the top priorities that we saw for Snohomish County. And so I just want to say that there was 2 strong leaders on there. So it was funding the police academy, getting the 19 classes. That's a large priority for us. And then transportation funding and preservation existing projects that are already slated. So those tied in very well with our city's priorities. So I think Snohomish County and Bothell are on the same page and putting forward the same message to legislature for this upcoming session. So, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. How about this side? Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you. I had a meeting with Lily Wilson Codita, and she is a director from the City of Seattle for their intergovernment relations. And this meeting was really exciting, and I shared the memo that she sent me with the rest of council today, and I'll be bringing that legislative agenda at our meeting, at the time of the meeting when we have our legislative people here. But what it basically is there's a Washington State Scholarship Foundation, and right now, the way the legislation reads, only private sector can invest in this scholarship. And when they invest, their money is matched by the state of Washington. So Seattle, Bremerton, Wenatchee, Spokane, Everett, and Bothell has been suggested to have a bill that will actually put municipals into this legislation, so that a city can say, if you want to, voluntarily or not, we would like to invest $1,000 into the scholarship fund, and the state will match that $1,000. So Senator Palumbo asked Seattle to meet with me and to talk to me about putting this in our legislative agenda so that we could help push this through this year. They can either do a bill, which they probably will, or just change the language of the existing legislation. But I think it's a really wonderful opportunity. It's kind of a pilot. It's not open to all cities. They're going to start with a limited number, and I suggested they do large medium city, maybe a small city, and then after 2 years review, who has participated and how it's working. So I'll be bringing that to you at our legislative point in this agenda tonight, hopefully for your approval.
All right, any other committee reports? Councilmember McNeil.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the meeting with the deputy mayor, and the one thing, she brought up a lot of the talking points that we talked about, but some of the other things that we talked about is the work that we do regionally and the committees that we sent on through the north end and through the entire east side corridor. And some of the message that was brought up is how we need to work together regionally to ensure that any of the transportation things that we're doing help and affect all of our communities versus just one or two. So I want to thank the deputy mayor for her comments, because that went a long way in that meeting. It felt really good to hear from other cities, and know other cities are listening to us. So again, as she said, let's make sure that our voices are heard when it comes to transportation. Coming up this week, I've got Regional Law, Safety, and Justice meeting that I'll be attending. I'll be attending the Seashore, which is the North End Cities 522 to 145th Transportation meeting. I'll be attending that on Friday. And then Wednesday, tomorrow, we have the Sound Cities Association Network Dinner, which we have elections for this year's upcoming caucus. So I'm excited to attend that as well on behalf of Bothell. I also had a meeting this past weekend with Shelton View Forest board members. And I want to say it was I'm still a little taken back by that meeting because it brought me back to 3 years ago, actually 4 or 5 years ago now, when One Bothell was formed. And the thing that was a powerful message to me is what we can do when we work together. And I sit up here with 6 colleagues, and I respect each and every one of them for everything that they do on behalf of the city. And I respect every community group that's out there. And the message that I took away from the meeting that I had on Saturday was there's an opportunity. And I think with a little bit of work, a little positivity, a little working with the city staff, working with the council, working with the state legislators, county legislators, I think we can come to a positive resolution. But I think we need to do that and make sure that we're doing that and collaborating together and staying positive. We always know when we stay positive, positive things can happen. There's an avenue to everything, but you have to stay together. If you let certain things divide you, then that's when failure can happen. So I want to basically just say on behalf of myself and the council up here, I look out into the audience right now and I see those signs right there and they bring back memories of when another group did the exact same thing before your group and then a group before that group. And we have a special thing here in Bothell, a very special community where we have a track record of preserving open space for our community. So let's stay together, work together, stay positive, and make sure that we do this on behalf of all 46,000 people that live in our community. Thank you.
Councilmember McCullough, if that remind you of another committee meeting? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And I met with Shelton View Forest, their president, treasurer, and a few other members of their organization on Saturday. And I thought very strongly about what I have heard. And I just want to give all of you an example of how we actually saved Wayne land. All of those signs and all of your efforts came to the legislature. We had 1,300 letters and pictures and emails wanting to save Wayne land. I, as a state senator at that time, was able to, along with Representative, oops, I'll forget now, there it went, along with my representatives, was able to get $1 million to kind of put into Wayne land. And then that group of One Bothell who came to the legislature and spoke to us really made a difference because they had the numbers of people who have signed up to save it as well. From there, One Bothell was able to bring in Forterra, which is a foundation that saves different lands throughout our state of Washington and beyond. And they actually got investors to guarantee that they would purchase Wayne land, and that they would, if it wasn't purchased appropriately, the investors would put their money into it. So there is an avenue, there is a way, but I want you to go to your state legislators. We will help you. The city will be here to help you in any way we can, but that is where you have to begin. That's where your first money needs to come from. I believe right now you do have some from Snohomish County. That's a great beginning. Now you need to add to that this legislative session. Thank you.
I just had one community report. The mayors met today, and I just wanted to reverberate what Deputy Mayor said, that whatever you call it, they brought all the cities across the North Shore of Lake Washington together because Sound Transit is basically trying to not provide a service. So they do have a website. If you just type Sound Transit in, you can get there and go in and leave them a comment and let them know that you do want transit to actually come to this area. If it doesn't happen this time around, I don't know when, if it ever would. So, and that does include a parking garage, I think. Is that still, or did they take that away yet? Yeah, maybe we'll get a parking garage. They said we'd get one last time around too. So, it would be helpful if people could help us. I know the other cities are trying to rally their people too. So it just takes one email from each of you. Okay, with that, I had a meeting with Shelton View Forest, but we're not going to talk about that. So now we're on to visitor comment. Each person addressing the council will give his or her name in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless the council grants further time, shall limit the address to 3 minutes. No person other than the council and the person having the floor will be permitted to enter into any discussion, either directly or through a member of the council without the permission of the mayor. I have some sign-up sheets here.
Mr. Mayor, so you amended the agenda to address something. Did you want to do that before visitor comments?
I already did. Oh, I added it to new business. Do you want to talk about the letter first?
If you added it to new business, then you added it to new business.
Probably now better. You guys want to take that on now instead of later in the agenda? Yes. That's in the majority. Okay. Sorry, visitor comment. We're holding off for just 1 second. So the council added to the agenda an item the city manager and I requested. City manager, do you want to take it from there?
Following the council direction that I received during the budget study sessions on October 18th, where the council made the determination not to put any funding in. So just for clarification, funding was not removed for Shelton View Forest. It's never been identified for the purchase of the Shelton View Forest. The council made the decision not to fund any initiatives towards the purchase of the Shelton View Forest. Again, I know what a difficult decision that was as you grappled with a lot of the challenges and demands as we put the 2019-2020 budget together. As a result of that, under my understanding with the Department of Natural Resources, we had a letter of interest that had been written in May 2016 that expired at the end of this month, December 31st, 2018, that provided the city the opportunity to initiate the purchase of 26 of the 46 acres. With the expiration of that coming, I had been working with the Department of Natural Resources over the last, over a year now, almost 2 years, working on some kind of extension and had understood from the Department of Natural Resources that any form of extension beyond the 2 years, which came at no cost, no financial commitment of the city, would require some kind of financial commitment. Department of Natural Resources, they are a business. They have a trust and need to sell their parcels and are interested in selling their parcels, and they must do them at full market value. And as I had these discussions with the Department of Natural Resources, it was indicated to me that some sort of financial commitment would need to be made by the city to have an extension, to extend that letter of interest. Without direction from the council and any funds included in that, in the 2019-2020 budget, there was no means for us to request an extension of that letter of interest. Therefore, I wrote a letter to the Department of Natural Resources indicating that we didn't have the funds to request an extension, however, encouraged the DNR to work closely with our association that was supportive of saving the Shelton View Forest, and indicated that the council remained very supportive of the efforts of the association and wanted to provide administrative grant and any political support that you could. So I still had direction to be very, very supportive of this initiative. We just didn't have any funds identified. After meeting with the group and having the group come forward, and the group really putting some pressures out there, which is that's democracy in the community in full glory, I was able to have a conversation today with the Department of Natural Resources, and they've reconsidered their position and have indicated to me that if we submit a letter of interest to extend our letter of interest, they would consider that for 2 years without a financial commitment from the city. And so what you have before you is a letter requesting that from the Department of Natural Resources, that they do extend that letter of interest for the city of Bothell for 2 years without any financial commitment. This gives the association an opportunity to seek grants and funding to be able to purchase those 26 acres.
Does anybody have any questions of the city manager about what she's presented? No? Thank you very much for reaching out today and getting that done in short order. Appreciate it. Is there a motion to approve the letter as has been presented to us. And
Second.
has that been just, I guess it was just on the dais. That's okay, though? Okay. But it'll be made public, what our letter is, okay. All right, so it's moved by the deputy mayor,
Second.
was it? No, wait.
moved
No, it was
by
moved by
Councilmember
Councilmember McNeil, second by the deputy mayor, to approve the letter to request DNR to extend the letter of interest for 2 more years, or the city's letter of interest for 2 more years. Any discussion on the motion? Councilmember McNeil?
Yeah, I will definitely be supporting this motion, and I want to say thank you to all the city staff that worked so hard to make this happen, and thank you very much, city manager. And to all the volunteers out there in the community, thank you for all your support on this.
Councilmember McAuliffe?
Yes, and I also would like to thank all of you who care so very much about your forest. And there's people in the audience that I worked with when we saved Wade land, and I am telling you, you can save this forest, but it will take your effort and your coordination, your group to go down to Olympia and request dollars out of that budget for this coming year.
Deputy Mayor?
I just wanted to say I appreciate everyone coming out and telling us how you feel. And I just want to remind you, we can only do this together. We can't turn on each other. We can't bring each other down. We have to do it together. And I beg you to be collaborative with the city and not punch us in the nose.
Yeah, how are you two doing down there? Do you have
All
a
right.
motion?
I second everything that they say. The whole council, lest anyone think that the council has not been concerned about Shelton View. We all care passionately about Shelton View. And so when we had the discussion about the budget, I mean, the first question out of our mouths were, can the city still support the community of Shelton View? So we have your back on this, but we have your back with our hands loosely tied. So, any rate, thank you for everything that's on your plate, being so thorough and how you very well, and the mayor as well, just very well articulated the needs of Shelton View.
All right, everybody's had an opportunity to discuss. Go ahead and place your vote. It passes unanimously with Councilmember Agnew absent and excused. City Attorney, do I need to read the legalese about visitor comment, or is it good enough because I said it before that
You already said it
agenda item? Okay, good. That's always annoying. First on the list is Susan Gardner. There's a microphone right, it's got a little red light on it there. And give your name for the record.
I'm Susan Gardner. I co-produced the Tree Lighting Festival on Main Street with Nancy Pipinich. It was held on Sunday, and it was quite the party. This event is volunteer-driven. The tree is located on property purchased by Nancy for her State Farm agency. It was first lit in 1937. In 1962, Life magazine declared it the largest living lighted Christmas tree in the world. Bothell High School in the 60s elected Christmas queens and courts to participate in the annual festivities surrounding the tree. When Nancy relocated to Main Street, fellow Main Street landowner Lynn Logston asked Nancy to resurrect the history and tradition of lighting the tree and having a festival. This year was our 4th year of that celebration. We wish to publicly thank the Main Street merchants, Bothell businesses and organizations, high school student volunteers, and music makers from the Canyon Park Middle School, Skyview Middle School, and Bothell High School that created a very festive atmosphere. And we thank our visitors, some 3,000 strong, for playing with us on Main Street.
Thank you. Next is Janine San Clemente. San Clement? San Clement?
San Clemente.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Janine San Clemente from Mothers Out Front, Puget Sound. You may remember that I spoke to you several months ago about passing a reusable bag ordinance in Bothell. At that time, I showed you around 300 signatures in favor of this ordinance, and am happy to say that we are getting close to 400 signatures on our petition. And there are 2 other petitions from other groups in circulation. I'm concerned about the pollution caused by plastic production, the health implications of plastic containers, the devastation caused to marine animals, and the cost of plastic bags in both our recycling and our solid waste systems. Tonight, I'm here with good news. There are 23 bag ordinances in place in Washington. Tonight, the city of North Bend is potentially voting on an ordinance, and the city of Snohomish is also discussing an ordinance as we speak. The Everett City Council seems poised to pass an ordinance tomorrow night. Burien will be voting on December 18th, and Gig Harbor and Kent are in the process of passing ordinances as well. It would be great if Bothell could do the same. I have heard that there is concern that because a statewide reusable bag ordinance is going to be put before the legislature this session, Bothell should wait. I urge you not to wait. Next year, there is no assurance that a statewide reusable bag bill will be passed next year. It may take several years, and if it is passed, there will be at least a year before it goes into effect, and if there is rulemaking, even longer. We need more cities to sign on to tell our legislators that Washington cities care about the destruction that plastic bags cause to our environment, our health, Earth's wildlife, and to marine wildlife. This problem is not going away. We want to take action now to address it. I've also recently heard concerns about the cost of a reusable bag ordinance to Bothell residents. As a reminder, any pass-through charge for paper bags of such an ordinance would be up to Bothell City Council members. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Martha Schmidt.
Good evening, Martha Schmidt. I was going to talk about the Shelton View Forest, but I'm very happy with the news that's been delivered so far. However, I would just like to say that I feel that the city of Bothell and our city council need to really consider the enormous challenge we have here to address climate change and the possible extinction of our species. And I think that these are all little pieces, the issue of deforestation, plastic bags, and so forth. And I would really like to see our city taking real leadership in looking at the bigger, all the issues, not just a couple of them or piecemeal. And I don't know if there's any kind of task force, but I certainly would be interested in seeing something like that that brought the people of the city together with you, our legislators, into a real serious discussion of what we're going to do and as quickly as possible. This is an emergency, and it's not being treated as an emergency. So I would like to ask that you consider opening up an opportunity for the citizens of this city to work with you to really try to see what we can do at our local level to push for a more rapid response. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Chris Connolly.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Chris Conley. I couldn't have asked for a better opening there from Martha. I'm an organizer with Environment Washington, a statewide membership-based environmental advocacy group, and we represent some members in Bothell. I'm here to ask for your leadership on 100% clean renewable electricity by passing a 100% clean renewable electricity resolution, similar to what Edmonds, Bellingham, Whatcom County, and Spokane have already passed. A 100% resolution would ideally call on the city to develop a plan to increase renewable electricity in the city that could include a solarized campaign, more municipal and community solar investment, and revisiting ordinances to make it easier for homes and businesses to invest in solar, such as eliminating permit and construction fees for new solar installations. while at the same time calling on PSE to provide 100% clean, fossil fuel-free electricity. There's so much cities can do to lead on clean, renewable energy, and we desperately need your leadership to make these things happen. But there's another reason that your action can have a profound impact on clean energy in Washington. As you might know, the state legislature will be considering legislation in 2019 for 100% clean, renewable electricity in Washington. This policy, if enacted, would require utilities to eliminate fossil fuels on the electricity grid and to invest in more efficiency, wind and solar in the short term as a replacement for fossil fuels. As important and meaningful as this is, getting the state to take this critical step will not be easy. However, it will be much easier if cities like Bothell committing to 100% clean, renewable electricity. The leadership already demonstrated by Edmonds, Bellingham, Whatcom County, and Spokane is sending a message to state leaders that communities want 100% clean, renewable electricity and is making it easier for them to act. In other words, the leadership of cities and counties in Washington will make the state bill more possible and more passable. The state bill will require utilities like PSE to take steps that make your local 100% commitment possible. Since you can't make PSE provide 100% clean, renewable energy, but state legislation can. These actions go hand in hand, but we need your leadership to make it happen. Clean energy is sweeping across America and is poised for further dramatic growth in the years ahead. 99 cities in America have committed, led by both Republican and Democratic mayors. In addition, 131 companies, including Google, Starbucks, and Microsoft, have committed. Repowering our economy with clean, renewable energy can put our nation on a healthier, more sustainable course. With rapid improvements in technology, vast clean energy resources, and a willing public, a future powered entirely by clean, renewable energy is increasingly within our reach. We encourage you on behalf of our members to help lead this movement and pass a resolution for 100% clean, renewable electricity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Hillary Sanders.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I want to start off by acknowledging the letter that has been discussed. We at the Shelton View Forest Stewardship Association see this as a positive development, very much so, in that it demonstrates the city's continued commitment to helping us preserve this space. It will also allow us to continue to seek funding for acquisition of the property and will grant us valuable time to get it done. We were actually going to ask you for this letter tonight, so you beat us to it. And so now instead of asking you for it, we can say thank you. And we do thank you very much for that clarification to DNR, because I think if approved, it will allow us to continue to progress towards acquisition. I want to say that our organization is committed to exhausting every opportunity to seek state funding to see this property preserved in the long term. We are continuing to meet with our state legislators. We have a meeting with Senator Palumbo tomorrow. We'll continue to work with the community. We're working with schools. There's educators in the audience tonight. There's people who are using this space to teach their kids and their students about the necessity of urban forests. And so we see a lot of value just in the education bit for this piece of forest, as well as the recreation opportunities that it provides. I know that there are other challenges that are definitely concerning to the council, and one of those biggest ones that I've heard expressed is maintenance and operation. And so what I would really like to see happen is for us to come together and kind of envision a plan, a volunteer stewardship plan for the various open park spaces that exist in our city, because as we know, with North Creek Forest and Wayne, there is a large group of people who, this is what they're all about. This is what Bothell is about. They want to volunteer. They want to give their time. And so, we can come together, maybe with the addition of a volunteer coordinator, can come up with some ideas for how we can share responsibilities without jeopardizing union jobs, because I know that is a concern. But again, preserving park space provides the opportunity for jobs, whereas destroying it does not. I want to just close by saying that the community is hopeful. Our organization is hopeful. We know that there is a clear path forward, and we have steps that we are going to pursue as an organization to make sure that this space is preserved. We appreciate your support so much moving forward, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Cameron Saraki. Is that right? Sarasi.
Hi, my name is Cameron Sarasi. I recently did my Eagle project at Shelton View Forest. I have a few copies of my Eagle Scout project report available if anyone wants it. For what I did for my project is I put up 2 maps that I laser cut and some signs, and this project took, I think, 2 months to plan, and then it took 2 days to one day for building everything and 1 day for installing everything into the forest. And during the day that we were installing everything, it was a pretty rainy day, but I still saw people out there, and they were just really excited to see the signs and the maps going into the forest. They just were really excited to see the forest getting this sort of improvement and getting this sort of investment. And I just think that there's clearly, as has been shown already, a lot of interest in this forest. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Sarah Witt. Got it.
Hi there again. My name is Sarah Witt. I'm a member of the Board of Directors for the Friends of North Creek Forest, and we would like to say something in the matter regarding the Shelton View Forest. So the Friends of North Creek Forest believes that the City of Bothell has the foresight to protect valuable natural resources, especially with the increased pressure for development within the city. And we ask that the city give Shelton View Stewardship Association the opportunity for success that the city once gave us. The educated, engaged, and excited Bothell community has once again come together through a shared connection to nature to support the acquisition of the Shelton View Forest. Showing faith and trust in that dedicated community demonstrates that the city has a strong commitment to preserve healthy environmental spaces for wildlife habitat, open space, wildlife corridors, and migration routes for salmon. The Shelton View Forest Stewardship Association has demonstrated their own strong commitment to provide support, expertise, and community outreach to develop a volunteer network of forest stewards for the ongoing restoration and care of the forest. We appreciate all of the support that the city has given Friends of North Creek Forest and look forward to seeing a similar relationship form with the Shelton View Forest Stewardship Association to maintain a healthy ecosystem in the city of Bothell. The city and its community groups' ongoing support for protecting the local environment and wildlife make the city beautiful and unique, which is a contributing factor to why people are attracted to live here in the first place. And as our population grows, land acquisition for both habitat and recreation will ensure the quality of life that the city of Bothell people cherish so much. So thank you very much for your commitment to a safe and healthy future for the residents of Bothell.
Thank you. That's the end of my sign-up. Oh, there's a sign-up sheet. Come on up. Can you give that to the clerk and then just give your name for the record?
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Jackie Sanders, and I just want to share that I've been thinking recently about our town motto, for a day and for a lifetime, and what brings people here for a day. Maybe a latte, maybe meeting a friend, staying in a hotel, riding through on their bike, or just driving through on their way to work. And then why do people come here for a lifetime? Well, 22 years ago when my husband and I bought our home here, we came because we could afford it. And North Shore schools, we wanted safety for our girls, we wanted our neighbors to be our friends, and we wanted to belong to a community. And after we were here for a few years, we started finding the gems in the community that maybe aren't as obvious. Yeah, the library and Blythe Park was one of our favorites. A ranch burger. You can't know that until you have it. So, I'm sorry, I forgot my glasses too. But what I want to say is we also found the Shelton View Forest. And yes, it's in my backyard. But that does not make me a NIMBY, because I'm not here because I want it for myself. I don't. I think it's the kind of priority that we want, even though the dollar signs are unbelievably ridiculous. We need to have on our priority list things that are valuable because they're gems. And so they're worth fighting for. And so Bothell's probably not going to be my last home. But while I'm here, I'm going to do everything I can to save things like Shelton View Forest for the people who will be here after me. And so I know you all care about that too. Believe me, I know that you do. And we all know the value of having a green space right there where we can go with our families on the weekends or in the evenings without having to commute for 2 hours to get there. So I just want to say that out of the 44,000 people who live in Bothell, I'm pretty sure that a lot of them think the Shelton View Forest is in Shelton. And I'm going to do everything I can to get people to realize that it's right here and it's worth fighting for. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Go ahead and bring your sheet up and give your name for the record.
Hello, my name is David Vliet, and my comments were going to be quite different and longer than they're going to be right now, but I just want to thank the city manager and the staff for the work they did to provide that the letter that was commented on earlier, and also not to forget the Department of Natural Resources. They didn't have to do this for us, and so I want to personally thank them for that. In closing, I think it was rather eloquently said at the study session that you all had back in October that oftentimes the north part of Bothell is kind of forgotten a bit, not intentionally, but I think while the money is not there right now, the money wasn't necessarily there when the city pulled off Wayne Golf Course and what they did with One Bothell. So I'm just here in support of the people in Snohomish County so they can also get their park and their forest. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to go ahead and come up and give your name for the record?
Hi, I'm David Bain, and I'd like to thank you for approving the letter. I know you didn't have any money in the budget this year because you have a whole lot of other things you need to cover and you're starting from a big hole, but one thing I learned working with One Bothell is that buying time can be as important as receiving money. So we had Forterra buy time for us, and you've just bought time for Shelton View Forest. And I also know what it's like to try to buy a park starting from zero, and you know, I've raised over $10 million for you know, for North Creek Forest and the Wayne Golf Course. So I know it can be done. I know it's not easy, but it can be done. And, you know, I think the lands of regional significance like Shelton View Forest can be paid for from funds outside the city. And we've already shown that with the Snohomish Conservation Futures money we've gotten. And the better we are at bringing in money from outside the city, the more city funds will be available for parks that Bothell should be doing on its own, like the sports fields I play soccer and ultimate frisbee on. So again, I'd like to say thank you, and you've given me a lot of work to do.
Does anybody else want to provide public comment? Go once, twice. There we go. God, will give your name for the record.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Ben Mankey. I think I forgot to give it last week when I spoke. Just wanted to say thank you again for working with the city manager to approve this letter to buy time for Shelton View Forest to seek funding. I've lived in Bothell for 25 years. I lived in Canyon Park that whole time. I actually never knew Shelton View Forest exists, and I plan to take my 2 kids up there this weekend to go run around a little bit, and I expect to see the same ear-to-ear grins that they got when they went to Wayne for the first time and were let, run free. So in addition to that, I also wanted to say thank you for the city's participation this last weekend in the tree lighting. It was a lot of fun. I didn't know about that either, but I ran into Nancy Pipinich here at the meeting, and she invited me. And so took my kids and my wife, and we had a great time. And fire station was there, the police department was there, and the city staff were there. And it was a great time. So thank you again for that, and I hope this will be something that we can do for years to come. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Is there anybody else? Come on, there's always one more. No? Okay. Moving on. All right. So we're on to the consent agenda. Nothing's been pulled. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councilmember McAuliffe. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, place your vote. Passes unanimously with Councilmember Agnew absent and excused. We're into new business, AB 18-187, adoption of the 2019-2021 legislative agenda and policy manual. And I think we have our own assistant city manager here. There she is. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of the City Council. My presentation materials for tonight are the 2 documents in your packet. We've had several months of discussions now on the city's legislative priorities for the 2019-2021 biennium. These are specifically state government legislative priorities, and I do think we have a state representative in the audience with us as well, so good audience for that. So the differences between the 2 documents you have in front of you, the legislative agenda is the city's top priorities. So in the interest of allocating your time, the staff's time, and then also our contract lobbyist time this year, the legislative agenda are the items that we will actively pursue. So these are the very most important things that you would like to see us go for. This is the reason that your 3 budget requests are in the legislative agenda. That's the centerpiece of this and the feedback that you had provided both to myself and to our contract lobbyist when the contract was approved, is that you wanted to see how we could find more revenue for the city at the state level. So you'll see that in the legislative agenda. The legislative agenda has 5 items on it right now. 3 of them are budget asks. From the transportation budget, the city is requesting the state fund $20 million for right-of-way acquisition and $450 million for construction north end improvements on I-405. From the operating budget, the city is requesting $400,000 to complete the Canyon Park sub-area plan. And then also from the state capital budget, the city is requesting $1.5 million to fund downtown revitalization efforts. So those are your 3 budget asks that we had discussed at previous meetings. As well, on your state legislative agenda, there is support here for the Washington Wildlife and Recreation Program, because we are projected to receive some funding for that. If it's funded at any sort of reasonable level, we would be getting more funds for the replacement of the pedestrian bridge at the park at Bothell Landing, which is, as you saw in your packet materials from, I believe, our last meeting, there was an item on consent. We're entering final design phase, and I know the Public Works Director can discuss further, but that has been underway for many years. So that's a project that's approaching, and assuming that we get some reasonable funding in there, the city's pretty confident in that grant. So fingers crossed. That's why it's on your legislative agenda. The last one is the city's request for the full 19 academy classes at the state's basic law enforcement academy. This is the school that allows us to train new entry-level officers. There's a pretty serious backlog there, and with the passage of your Proposition 1 public safety levy, we will be actively pursuing hiring in the police officer area. So yeah, that's your state legislative agenda. There's 5 items there. The policy manual is your second document. Just to recap for the listening audience, the policy manual are a series of areas that the city also supports, but they are not the top priorities. They simply express which kind of items that the lobbyists will be tracking for us and staff will be tracking and would bring to the city for your feedback. So there are other items that the city also supports, but your top priorities are those really short lists that's on the 1 page in your agenda. So the policy manual is for other items that you may wish to support in Olympia this season. with that.
All right, thank you. Let's take one piece at a time. Is everybody okay on council with the legislative agenda? And we'll take up the second part, which is called the policy manual, secondly. Councilmember McAuliffe?
Thank you. In reviewing a little bit of the language for downtown revitalization, might I try and just put a little bit of a different spin on the very last sentence, which says that this will create a healthy environment as well as a healthy economy. I'd like that to be stronger language for the sake of the legislatures. So I think it should speak a little bit more toward additional revenue to contribute to Bothell's revitalization and economic development efforts. I just feel like it lays it out a little bit clearer.
And I'm noting that I will just suggest that since we do have a meeting with your legislators on Monday, if you would like to suggest changes, you could pass this as amended. And so I'm taking some careful notes on wording if there would be something that would work.
Let me help you out. Anybody on council have an objection to Councilmember McAuliffe's change to the last sentence of that paragraph? Oh, you Deputy Mayor.
I do not have any objections. I think those are great ideas.
Okay, I agree. Everybody good with that? Okay, majority, done. As amended, so whoever makes the motion has to say as amended. Is there any other changes?
The only other one, and I'm not sure whether we want to consider it in the legislative agenda or to put it in the policy manual, and that was the Washington State Scholarship Student Support Pathway account, and that would be for the state of Washington to insert language saying that it will match municipal and private sector investments. So that means that the city could invest in a scholarship and it would be matched by state dollars. And that's what was brought to me by the city of Seattle. And Senator Palumbo asked also that we consider putting this into the legislative agenda. But I'm not sure, Tori, whether it should be here or in the policy manual. But they did ask us to put it in.
Oh, there we go. Let's ask the council. But I don't want to lead the way, but how do you guys feel about adding that to the legislative agenda instead of the, I think we're all going to be in support of that. And let's start there. Is everybody in support of adding that in general, not which document? Yes. Yeah, okay, there's a majority. So we got that in. So now the question is, do we put it in the legislative agenda or do we put it in the policy manual? And the policy manual is a more detailed document, has more the legislative agenda, which I'm just reiterating what I think what you just said, sorry, but it's the short list or the top priorities. Deputy Mayor.
So I would be in favor of putting it in the policy manual, and the reason is we've had a lot of discussion about the agenda and how it's important for it to be one page and concise in our very, very top priorities. And since this is coming in a little bit late, I'm in favor of it, but I don't want to detract from the work we've already done and the things we are stating as our priorities.
Councilmember Zorns.
I would agree with Deputy Mayor Dewar on that. To add it to our agenda muddies the waters. We need this one page to be direct and to the point. However, putting it in our policy manual is a great place to tuck it in there and get it on our radar.
I'm concurrent with these guys that put it in the policy manual. Is that okay? So
yes, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other changes? Sorry, I went down the council, but you are the former senator, so we should probably hit your changes first.
Sorry. I do have some other questions, but maybe we should hold that. Oh, I know what it is. Here it is right here. In the policy manual, under affordable housing, health, human services, and homelessness, the 1, 2, 3, 4th bullet says, support options to increase supply of affordable housing in the Central Puget Sound region. Are we in the Central Puget Sound region? Are we?
I'm pretty sure we are, but I don't know.
Okay.
Who's the geography?
Well, I don't know if we're
I've lived here my whole life. I've never thought of it that way, but it is central.
Okay. As long as we're there, I don't care.
Okay. Yeah. At least it's not Eastern Washington.
Okay. And then I don't know for sure, but I also think it's important that we try and support legislation for the ban on plastic bags. And I would like to put that in the policy manual as well. And that would be supporting the legislative action that they plan to bring up this session.
Okay, so we have another ad for the policy manual to add the ban or support of the ban on plastic, statewide ban on plastic bags. Is anybody else in favor of that, Deputy Mayor?
I am, and you all know it. I have more to say, but I'll wait till it's my turn.
All right, is everybody okay adding the support for the statewide ban on plastic bags? Head nod, head nod. Okay, majority, good. You got any more? That did, okay. All right, so who would like to go next? Deputy Mayor?
So I am interested in talking about the policy manual. Last go-round, I asked for staff to forward us some recommendations on how to fill out our environmental portion of that manual. And we did receive some information from staff. What I'm, I guess, struggling with is there are a number of potential bills, but we don't necessarily know all of the language. And so I reached out to actually I think her name's Janine, because they came to us about a local plastic bag ban and asked if they were in support of the statewide bill, and they said yes, but they don't know all of the particulars, and I think that's true of a lot of these bills. So I'm wondering if we could add language that generally speaks to being in support of waste reduction and diversion policies, clean air, and clean renewable energy, and just in general, broadly. And then if as these bills come up, staff can kind of direct us as to what's in them and whether or not it's a good thing for Bothell, just only because sometimes we get mandates that are not funded. I wondered if council would be in support of putting that kind of language in.
So just so I got it straight, you said waste reduction, clean energy, and then I can't listen to it right at the same time.
So I said waste reduction and diversion policies. There was other language in terms of, let's see, as long as I'm going to make you all wait. There was also some discussion of, in the information forwarded by staff about a recycle development center. We know that if we've got a recycling problem, and if we don't fix it, it's all just going to go into the waste stream. So I would think that's also important. And then I said clean air and clean renewable energy. I didn't write a statement out because I wasn't quite sure how to approach this, but those are my recommendations, and I'd love to hear what the rest of council thinks.
That's a pretty broad statement. I'm okay with it. Is everybody okay with that? Yes, you have a majority.
May I just read back what I had on that? So that would be adding a bullet or amending that final bullet. Either one of those could be a place for it. Support waste reduction and diversion policies. And then I had clean air, clean renewable energy. And did you also say there was...
Sorry, I added late in the game recycling development center.
So I think that's covered under waste reduction and diversion. Diversion means recycling, yeah.
So,
would you be open to something like support sustainability measures which protect the environment, including those related to waste reduction and diversion? So
perfect. I knew there was someone better for this job than me.
There's not a lot of nouns there all together. So we will add that to clarify policies which protect the environment, and then list out those areas if that works for you.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right, any other changes to the agenda? Yep, Councilmember McNeil.
I'd like to know, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to see, is there a spot where we could put something for support of the Shelton View Forest?
You'd have to propose something to the council where you'd want it, whether it be in the policy manual or the
I think the policy manual would probably be the place to put it. Not in the legislative priority one page, but I think in the policy, but I'm not sure where would be the best place to put it within those sections. environmental might be the place.
Yeah, I think that of the sections we have here, I think that one is the one that works best.
All right, so how do council feel about that? Adding support the preservation of Shelton View Forest? Yep, there we go.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other changes? Councilmember Zorns? Wow, you guys got changes.
I appreciate the focus about addressing waste diversion, because that is a huge problem, and I don't think the general public appreciates how big of a problem it is. Looking at, it's the last item on transportation, utilities, and public works, and I think where we hit it as the last bullet point. In our agenda, we talk about direct funding or bonding against toll revenue for 405. And I get a little twitchy these days when we start talking about committing our dollars to something that we don't necessarily see the fruit of. And so on this last bullet point in the policy manual, the comment that says the very last phrase, in particular, the acceleration of funding for the I-405 master plan, I would like to attach the phrase, as it benefits Bothell. Because the last thing I want to do is support accelerated funding for and bonding, which we will be obliged to forever for 405, and then see those dollars once again get diverted to another project that doesn't address the needs for the north end. And that's it.
Okay, how do council feel about that addition over here? No? Do you want to give some feedback?
I'll kind of speak. I think it's, I mean, I like the context of where we're going there, but I think it's working together regionally is very important, and the messaging regionally will gain support both ways. So it just felt a little off to me.
How do we feel? So there's two. Oh, did you want to say something, Councilor McAuliffe?
Yes, I think that there is definitely an issue, and I appreciate your bringing it forward, about Bothell not maybe being the front runner here at all, but kind of the stepchild of Sound Transit. But I don't know that that's the place to put it. It's a little concerning.
Deputy Mayor.
I totally know where you're coming from, but as I read our first bullet on the legislative agenda, it says the city requests that the state fund $20 million for the right-of-way acquisition and $450 million for construction of north end improvements on 405, either through direct state funding or bonding against toll revenue. So I think that kind of covers it, because we're not saying here for everything, but in the other document, we're talking specifically about ETP and their agenda and supporting their agenda. So I think we've got it kind of covered that we're in support of bonding against tolls for this particular project. Does that make sense? I shouldn't say that, because I'm inviting you to talk and the mayor hates back and forth.
Yeah, don't do that. There's rules that we have to follow for reasons. I'll just weigh in too. So I totally get where you're going to, but I don't know, are you on any transportation committees? Yeah, as soon as you start saying aye on those things, boy, the whole group wants to pummel you. So like if we just put Bothell there, then they would be offended, I would say, as a group. So I wouldn't support changing that as well. Okay, she's fine. Okay, is there any other changes? Seeing none, is there a motion? Deputy Mayor?
I move, I don't have it in front of me. I move that we approve the 2019-2021 legislative agenda and policy manual as amended. I don't know if, do we need to have her restate?
That's good. I got him. Is there a second? Second. All right. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by, I'm going to give that one to Councilmember McAuliffe by a split second. I lost it. Where's my little line there? Approve the 2019-2021 City of Bothell Legislative Agenda and Policy Manual as amended, and I have a list of amendments. Tried to do my job. For the policy manual, legislative agenda, sorry, we wanted to edit the last sentence of the first ask, which is the, I'm sorry, not the first ask, but the downtown revitalization to emphasize the economic development benefit. For policy manual edits, there was add language to support Senator Palumbo's initiative to add cities to the trust fund that the state would match. Any Washington Scholarship Prep, okay. The next one is add statewide ban on plastic, support the statewide ban on plastic bags, support waste reduction, clean renewable energy, I'm sorry, waste reduction and diversion, clean renewable energy and clean air, and then preservation of Shelton View Forest. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, go ahead, place your vote. Passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1 with Councilmember Agnew absent and excused. And last but not least, we're on to AB 188, which is an ordinance amending Bothell Municipal Code sections 5.4.040 and 5.4.120 relating to the business license and regulations. And we have, oh, there you are, the interim finance director.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy, and City Council. For your consideration this evening, get my glasses on. There is a change in state law with regards to business license and administration by municipalities, and I'm going to give you a brief history here. In 2017, the Senate passed engrossed House Bill 2005, which intended to simplify the administration of municipal general business licenses for applicants, streamline processing, and improve the business climate. In accordance with the House Bill, all Washington cities with general business license requirements must adopt Washington's new model business license ordinance by January of 2019, and that is why we are here this evening. Some of the requirements of the House bill is it sets an annual revenue threshold for licensing. It determines a threshold, whether it is to be exempt or a no-fee license. Going back to that first bullet point, the annual revenue threshold, you are to establish the threshold with a minimum of at least $2,000 annually. Staff is suggesting keeping it the same as our current licensing structure, which is an annual revenue of $12,000. If a business has a threshold of under the $12,000 currently, we do not require them to pay a fee, but we do require them to register. That way we are aware of who is doing business within the city limits of Bothell. So that is what we are recommending this evening, is $12,000 annual threshold for revenue and registering, but a no fee for the license. Another requirement sets the types of businesses required to license in this model, as well as a definition of engaging in business. What this does is statewide, this brings standardization and unified codes to municipalities with regards to business licensing. Transferring your business licensing administration to the state is a deadline of 2027. And until you transfer the administration of your licensing, the city will continue to administer it through the city. Preparation steps that are currently underway. The staff has been engaged with the Department of Revenue earlier this fall in discussions of how we go about doing the transition. Continued discussions will be ongoing in early 2019. We are currently scheduled with DOR for implementation in 2020. We are number 42 on the list of cities in 2020 to implement. What it does require, and this will be brought back to council for consideration in 2019, is a revision of the city's fee structure. Department of Revenue has informed us that Bothell is one of the most complicated business license fee calculations that they have seen. Our current license structure includes 3 categories. We have the type of business, and then you add it's a range of employees. There's another fee that's based on, calculated on that, and then the third one is your square footage of your business. So staff will be reviewing, analyzing, working with our economic development manager and businesses over the course of next year to determine some options and also revenue options that we can bring back to council for your consideration in revising our fee structure. Once we transfer to the state's business license system, also known as BLS, fees are administered by the state. They will administer our new business license applications, our renewals. It is no cost to the city. There is an administration fee for the applicants. I think it is currently $19 for new applications and $11 fee for renewals. This is intended to be a one-stop shop where businesses can go onto the Department of Revenue's website and they can renew or apply for their state license, their City of Bothell license, and perhaps other cities that they also do business in, hopefully saving time and improving service. Our recommendation is to approve this proposed ordinance to satisfy and fulfill the requirements of the state regulations. And that is the end of my presentation, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Councilmember McAuliffe? Sorry.
Thank you. In the ordinance, it speaks about the law requiring cities with business licenses to establish a task force to create a model policy. And that looks like that has to be, will take effect January 1, 2019. So I'm wondering about the task force.
The knowledge that I have about the task force that it was established, I want to say, 2016 it was established, and I believe AWC, Association of Washington Cities, was a big part of that organization. We were not a part of that, so I really have not a whole lot of knowledge of how that was all formed, but they have kept the cities abreast of, as the implementation and the regulations and requirements, what we needed to do by January of 2019.
And do they have a report from the task force?
They do have a report, and it can be found on their website.
Okay.
There's also a lot of information on the Department of Revenue's website, which may also tie to that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilmember Zorns?
Well, a couple quick questions, and I'm sure it's covered here, and I missed it. On page 61 of our agenda packet, you said the city's threshold is $12,000 a year, but I see an item of any business that's less than $1,000 a month. So are we going by month, or what just averages out for the whole year?
It would average out for it would be 12,000 for the year.
Okay, so then my next question is that, say you have a college student who's home for the summer and wants to go do yard work. Are they exempt from this as long as they earn under $12,000 a year from having a business license, or could someone call them on that?
To my knowledge, I don't know that I've seen where we have somebody like that doing that type of business coming in and registering. I don't know if permitting sees that either.
I would think people wouldn't think to ask that, but would the city be expecting someone to do that?
It's a good question.
Nope. $1,000 question?
I mean, basically, to do business in the city of Bothell, it's an expectation that you get a business license. A summer job, I don't think that's the group that we're targeting.
Okay.
It's for a business. It's
Okay.
usually for a year-long period of time, you're doing business.
Okay.
I guess if you were to strictly interpret the ordinance and the requirement to get a business
You'd have
license.
somebody out investigating it.
But that's not, we're not following up on those things. That's not what that's,
Right.
yeah.
Right, and I appreciate the language for people who are doing business, who are coming through Bothell, but are exempt from this applying to them. So, thank you.
I know if you have a naughty business come through your town, like a mobile business, and they do something dumb, that's the first thing you have them do is go ahead and go get their business license. So, on top of cleaning up the mess they just created. So, I don't know if we do that here, but that's pretty standard. Like, you don't even have a business license. Okay, so is there a motion?
I move the recommended action.
It's moved. There we go. It's moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councilmember McAuliffe to adopt the proposed ordinance amending Bothell Municipal Code sections 5.4.040 and 5.4.120. Any discussion on the motion, Deputy Mayor?
I just want to thank Councilmember Zorns for looking out for all of the lawnmowers out there.
Landscapers. All right, any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, place your vote. They're not blinking there. There we go. Now they're blinking. That passes unanimously with Councilmember Agnew absent and excused. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We're good, City Attorney? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's moved by Deputy, whoa, sorry, my bad. Can we pull that back just real quick?
I withdraw.
I forgot that Councilmember McNeil asked for a point of personal privilege. Councilmember McNeil?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take the opportunity to say a few words about how great the city is that we live in. I feel my family personally feels very special to live in the city of Bothell. But this past week, after the tree lighting ceremony that we had, I had several people reach out to me and say how special it felt for their families and their youngsters. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend, but I wanted everybody on council to know that how much we appreciate the city for their efforts in making sure that that tree lighting ceremony went off and everybody had fun within our community, because it is about community. And we talk about that a lot on the sense of community that we're trying to strive for here. And I believe that we have that. So I just want to say hats off and thank you very much to all the city for all your help on this. Thank you.
All right. So there was you want to go ahead?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, do you want to vote on it just for fun? I think I know how this is going to turn out. Oh, come on. Passes 5 to Councilmember McNeil's, and the negative, you can stay here another hour. Councilmember Agnew's absent and excused. We're adjourned.